Greetings from the Queen of Ooga Booga, that is. Hi, I'm Sally Diane, and welcome to Thursday Night Palm Readings, third episode. It's coming along quite nicely, and thank you to everyone who sent in palms. I've read quite a few of you. I think I've read everybody who has sent me a palm. I've read, and it's in the can, so you will see it over the next couple of weeks. But anybody else there is more than welcome. Please send in your palm. Make sure you get your thumb and your fingers so I see the whole palm, and it helps me if I see both of them. Also, if you have a question and you'd like to take part in the channel, send us your video. Send us a video question or comment, and we will put it up. If you don't want your face shown, we will just run the audio. One more announcement, and we're pretty excited about this. On Sunday night, 9 o'clock, we're going live. I'll be talking about numerology and the tarot. I'm going to touch on some of the elements and animals, and best of all, I will be taking your questions. So please, show up at 9 o'clock, come and join us for the fun, and give us your questions. I will also be doing mini-minute readings, so if you want a mini-minute reading, then just put your date of birth right down in the comments, and that's not now, but during our live Q&A, my producer will be off camera moderating, and it should be a really good time. I'll see you then, and now, on to the palm readings. And now, Suzanne. Suzanne has what we would call a spatula hand, which means it's broader at the bottom than it is at the top. That means she has both a well-built up mound of Luna and a well-built up mound of Venus. So she receives a lot of psychic impressions. She also receives a lot of love from people. There is a kind of emotionality and overthinking in her hand. I do see that in her childhood, there's this separation as far as who she grew up to be and who she was raised to be. So I'm sure that she's a very loving person, and I'm sure she loves her family, but she just chose a different path, and that's willingly and intentionally. She is a thoughtful person, but I think she thinks things through a little too much. She can not chew on things so much. Make your decision and move on. It's funny that I see this overthinking, but then when I look at will and logic, there seems to be some lacking in the way she thinks things through. You know, just because you think things through long doesn't mean you think things through practically. And I think that she misses out on some of the little details. And I know that there's a stubbornness here. I know that there's a tenacity. When I look at her lifeline, I see that, you know, things kind of go smoothly for her for a while. I mean, life always has its ups and downs. You know, if we didn't have challenges in life, it'd be pretty boring. And she has an appropriate amount of just pedestrian kind of challenges until she hits right midlife, right around, say, 50-ish. And I've seen her husband's hand, so I know that her and her husband are going through this together, because it's strange. She actually sent me a copy of his hand too, which, by the way, I'm not going to read, and please don't send me multiple people's palms. But in this case, I really have to comment that they both have this strange break in their lifeline right around that 50 to 55 time of life. So whatever they're going through, it's very similar, and it's both of them. So they have a relationship kind of challenge here, but it's also something that turns things on their head, because it goes from one being basically the dominant and the other one being the submissive, it turns around to the person who is submissive today becomes dominant tomorrow and vice versa. Back to Susan's hands. She wanted to know about career. And just the first thing that I thought of, the first impression I got when she asked about career was the Red Queen and Alice in Wonderland. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, the Red Queen asks Alice, well, what do you want to do? And Alice said, I just want to stay in the same place. Well, the Red Queen grabbed Alice by the hand and started running as fast as she can and explained to Alice the only way you can stay in one place is by running as fast as you can. And the point of that statement is that we live in an ever-changing world. And she says, what do you see for me career-wise? I like where I am right now. And I get the kind of that, she is going to be pushed ahead because she does her job well, because she is a conscientious worker. Of course they're going to push her ahead. But if you're progressing, your job does change. So you like your job, you do it well, it will change because they will move you forward, they will promote you, and that's a good thing. So accept the challenges and actually look forward to the challenges ahead. You're far too young to want to just settle down in one little place and stay there. You've got other things to achieve in this life. Enough with the lecture. She doesn't necessarily see herself as a leader, but if she expressed herself a little bit more as a leader, she would become a leader, because people do look at Suzanne and how she accomplishes the things she accomplishes, and they want to follow her. People like you. So think of that, and maybe it's time for you to express your leadership skills a little bit more. Anyhow, that is your reading. Thank you for sending me your palms. And please remember to subscribe and tune in again every week, even on weeks when I'm not reading your palm. Thank you. And now, Jobina. And Jobina has what I would call an elemental hand. It's square-ish. She does have some length to it, but not a lot. I'd say that she is a creative person who is also puts a great deal of importance on being organized. When I look at her childhood, I see this whole multi-generational tradition. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if Jobina was raised in a household where there were grandparents, or maybe even grandparents either living in the household or around a lot. She has the influence of multiple generations above her as she enters into childhood and her young childhood years. I feel a lot of her lines have this depth and this colors that tells me that Jobina's life has a richness of experience. Getting back to her childhood, I think it was a happy childhood. I think she was slow to leave the nest. I don't think she really went out on her own completely until she was into her early to mid-20s. So we follow her lifeline, and I'm holding up Jobina's because she has such nice deep color to her lines that it's easy to see them. This is her lifeline, and you probably only see it to here, but it actually goes all the way around. Like this part of her life, this would be your mid-20s to, say, your mid-40s, and you see how she's got that richness of experience, that depth. This is a good time for her. I know that life has its ups and downs, but overall, this is somebody who enjoys the life she's living. When you get into that period from like the mid-40s to the mid-60s, which is the part that comes right around here, her line becomes a lot lighter, and I really think that reflects kind of an maybe a boredom where it's like, okay, what should I do next? Maybe this is a point in her life where she's experiencing the empty nester kind of thing. Now, when I look at her senior years, though, Jobina has a good senior years ahead of her. I see good depth, like this color and this depth returns to that part of her lifeline that goes right underneath your mound of Luna, that part of your hand right there. And when you have this good color, this good depth of color, it tells me that you're going into this time of life with your facilities in relatively good shape and limited mobility problems, nothing that wouldn't keep you from getting out and about and experiencing life and all that life has to offer. And I like to see that for Jobina. I think when I look at the heart line, I think I'm looking at a very kind person, but I'm also looking at a person whose head and heart are fairly close together, so one kind of rules the other. And in these when you're looking at it from the side of the heart, it's actually good because Jobina likes to be a trusting and open person, and she is. But Jobina will not allow herself to be used or lied to or anything like that. But as long as you are kind and respectful to Jobina, Jobina will be kind and respectful to you. Her headline concerns me a little bit, and here's why. She starts out thinking things through logically, 1, 2, 3, but right about the time she reaches 4, it feels like her thought process is pulled into 3 different directions. So she's not sure whether she should think with her logic, whether she should think with her intuition, or whether she should think with her heart. I would say to you, look to the future with your intuition. Look to matters of your heart with your heart. But look to matters of thought and head with your logic. And if you have trouble with that, if you come into that part where your heart and your intuition are pulling your thought processes in different directions, start meditating or do one of the meditative exercise. Yoga helps, Tai Chi. I'm sure that there are other kinds of arts out there that will help you to kind of settle your brain down and to get focused again. Last but not least, one very prominent thing in Jobina's hands is this Saturn finger. It's got this little crook toward the creative finger. And I do see potential for Jobina to be a great communicator. I hope you find a good cause and run with it. Thank you. And now, Rebecca. And Rebecca, sweet Rebecca, was born in the year of the wood pig. And the wood pig is an animal who is reliable, who is well-grounded, and who takes care of those around them. And that certainly is Rebecca. One thing that I see in her hand, if you are not officially a spiritual leader of some sort or another, you will be an unofficial spiritual leader. I see that people look to you as a moral compass. I see a great deal of your energy is spent taking care of others. I think you've always been that way. As a kid, you were the kid that took care of your younger siblings. You were the one that protected the other kids from being bullied on the playground. I'm looking at your heart line, and your heart line is the little smiley face one that goes like this. And if it goes like this, it's too long. And yours doesn't go quite that far. And it's just practically perfect, just like Mary Poppins. You stand by people just a little longer than you should, but not so long that you go down in flames with them. And you're definitely strong enough to carry that on your shoulders. You always encourage people to do their best and be their best. I do see a writer's triangle in this hand, and I also see a very strong fate line. I do believe that you have talent as a writer, and you have talent as a communicator, and I hope that you use that talent and direct it well. When I look at your thumb, which tells me will versus logic, you do have a good sense for business and negotiation. I don't think you're much of a horse trader, and you would, I think that you like to go into negotiations and just put your best deal forward, take it or leave it. You are a lead by example kind of person. You are well aspected in the area of business. And finally, last but not least, family. And I do see that you have your family set aside from certain areas of your life, and I'm okay with that. It feels perfectly good. I see everything around your family as far as how you handle it as being loving and compassionate. I think it's possible that you might be on different paths than certain people close to you that you still feel very loving toward. Good luck to you, sweet Rebecca. It was awesome reading you. Thank you. Hi, and now Sandy S.'s palm. Sandy S. was born in the year of the fire goat, but she's a Pisces born in the year of the fire goat. So she's got this water and fire energy working together. So Sandy, it's very important that you put things in the right order. You know, with your emotions flow freely as a Pisces, they do. But since you're a fire person, especially fire goat, you might tend to speak up passionately about what's right without putting your emotions in check. And it might be a good idea for you to think of the idea of fire and water together and decide, you know, when you want to bring out the emotional side of you and when you want to bring out the fiery side of you. But keep in mind that those sides sometimes work against each other. So there's a little bit of an internal battle going on there. When I look at Sandy's hands, you know, the word blunt comes to mind. I think that Sandy has a way of speaking her mind and letting people know exactly where they stand with her. She's got, I know I've talked about the Mound of Venus before. She is a very well-liked person. That's not an issue at all. She likes to, I think she's a bit impatient because it seems like she wants to go in a lot of different directions at once, but she doesn't, you know, it's like it's got to be quick or Sandy's going to lose interest. And I even see that in your thumb, although one thing I get from you is that when you do get an idea, you know, you have what I call bend over backwards will, and that tells me that you are a strong negotiator, and when you're in that early stages of planning where you're all on fire about it, you will not take no for an answer. And sometimes that works for you, sometimes it might not. When I look at your hands, I worry a little bit about, you know, I talked about passion with you, and I definitely worry about it getting out of control. And that's just, you have a heart line that just goes almost all the way across your hand. It comes dangerously close to being a simian line. And so I would really say that you need to learn to count 10 a bit. You have a beautiful headline. So when you're not caught up in, that's another thing, that whole water fire thing, right? When you're not caught up in your emotions, you can actually think things through quite clearly. I think I'm looking at a very intelligent person. I do believe that you have strong talents in one of the creative fields, perhaps songwriting or singing or something along those lines, because I see a strong fate line that tells me big things want to happen to you, okay? So believe in yourself, look for opportunity, and when you see opportunity, grab it. And put that passion to use. Anyhow, thank you very much.